Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Thank you for coming for part 3 of Cheerios and Language of the Hand. Cheerio. I don't know. I probably mispronounced it, but it looks like Cheerios to me. Cheerio. Anyway, it's palmistry. We're learning about the hand. Well, thank you for coming tonight and spending your valuable time with me as we learn about your hand. You know, we found all about the different types of hands, shoveled fingers, spaded fingers, long fingers, the big square hand. Tonight, we're going to do the psychic hand. We're going to get right in on to that because guess what? Psychic hand, strong hands, they're all the same. I'm driving bus. Tonight, we're going to do the psychic hand. But last week, we did our last part 2 was the like the artist hand and being creative, and the ones that are impulsive. You got long fingers with sharp fingernails on them and long tender hands. You might be the talkative type, taking on an actor's position or something like that. But tonight we're going to talk about the psychic hand. And who out there has a psychic hand? Do you have a psychic hand? What kind of psychic hand do you got? Why don't you make a copy of your hand, send it to me, and we'll figure it out right here on the show. Anyway, looking forward to hearing all about all of that. And so right now, we're going to get right into it, as we always do. And here we go. Psychic hand. Okay. The psychic hand. The most beautiful, but the most unfortunate of the 7 is what is known as the psychic. This, in its purity of type, is a very rare hand to find. The name explains itself, that which apparitions of the soul. The very word seems to suggest to one's mind the old fable of the envy of Venus towards the maiden of Psyche, the war of the goddess of passion against the more spiritual charm of the daughter of the soul. In its purest of type, it is a hard hand to find. 19th century civilization does not encourage such rare flowers of lily whiteness and icy purity, the calmness, coldness, and dreamy chastity of such a type, and are not sought after by the present day sons of the soil. Those heads are bowed in the quest for gold, and whose blood is heated by the closeness of the cattle. But though the exact type may be hard to find, yet there are hundreds of men and women who so approach the psychic that they must be considered part of it, particularly when the customs that control our present day are taken into consideration. The psychic is the most beautiful hand of all. It is in formation long, narrow, and fragile looking, with slender tapering fingers and long almond-shaped nails. Its very fineness and beauty, however, indicate its want of energy and strength, and one instinctively pits such hands as if have to try to hold their own in the battle of life. Individuals with the psychic hand have a purely visionary, idealistic nature. They appreciate the beauty in every shape and form. They are gentle in manner, quiet in temper. They are confiding. They instinctively trust everyone who is kind to them. They have no idea how to be practically businesslike or logical. They have no conception of order, punctuality, or discipline. They are easily influenced by others. Against their will, they are carried away by the strong rush of humanity. Color appeals to them. Okay, look at that. This is a psychic hand. Do you know anybody with a psychic hand? Look at that. The psychic or idealistic hand. Take a good look at that. This nature in the highest possible way to some. Every tone of music, every joy, every sorrow, every emotion is reflected in a color. This type of unconsciously a religious one, it feels what is true, but has not the power to seek truth. In religion, such people will be more impressed with the service, the music, and the ceremony than the logic or truth of the sermon. They are initiatedly devotional, but they seem to dwell on the confines of the spiritual. They feel the awe and the mystery of life without knowing why. All forms of magic and mystery attract them. They are easily imposed upon, and yet bitterly resent being deceived. These individuals have the intuitive faculties highly developed. They are good at sensitive as sensitives, mediums, clairvoyants, because they are more alive to feelings, instincts, and impressions than they are more matter of fact brothers and sisters. Parents having such children generally do not at all understand how to treat them. The strange thing is that they are often the offspring of matter of fact practical people. The only way in which I could account for such a fact is by the theory of balance. Nature, working through hereditary laws, finds a point of balance by producing the direct opposite of the parents. Thus, the law of reaction produces the type under examination. Alas, too often a temperament of this kind, by the ignorance and stupidity of the parents, is forced into some business life simply because their father is in business. The utter wrongness of this life so crushes and dwarfs the nature that ever so often the result of such environment is insanity or an early grave. There is no question but that the asylums of the world are largely filled by the utter inability of parents for such a position of responsibility, and the sooner this fact is recognized, the better. The possessor of these beautiful, delicate hands, the indicators of the purely sensitive nature, usually feel their position in life so keenly that they too often consider themselves useless and become morbid and melancholy in consequence. Such, however, is not the case, and there is nothing useless that nature calls into creation. The beauty and sweetness of such temperaments are often of more use and do more good than those who, by the accumulation of the world's goods, build a covenant uh, or endowed a church. They may be placed here to establish a balance in the laws of humanity, and may be here to increase our love and appreciation of the beautiful, but they are not useless. As of that we may be assured. Therefore, let us encourage them, or encourage and help them, instead of crushing and destroying them, as we often do. Alas, in the worldly sense, they are generally left far behind in the race for fame and fortune. I cannot refrain from drawing the following picture as illustrative of such types. They are as lilies thrown by some ruthless hand upon the tempest tossed river of life. They seem so helpless in the onward sweep of the terrible current. One sees them at times clinging to the banks for pity. Ah, those beautiful hands have so no strength. They are swept on again by the rising tide of bubbling, babbling, frothy humanity. A little lower, one sees them soiled and stained, crouching beneath the shadow of some rock, trying as if it were to look happy amid the weeds that for a moment mock the stream. Again, it is the rush of the onward tide for a wash of some passing barge that drags them from the shelter of the stone and hurries them nearer to the sea. The river is broader now, quieter, calmer, wider. We expand in our view as we leave the narrow banks of youth. See now, as the night is nearing, how those lilies rest upon the dream upon the tide. The river is silent now, and the rush is past. The day of life is done. See how it bears the broken flowery tenderly, as if sorry for roughness of the early tide. All is quiet now, all is calm. Wider and wider yet it grows, Calmer, yet still calmer. The end has come. The mist falls now, thicker and closer and whiter. How still it is. The silence hangs like a coldness of the heart. The river widens out into the sea, and lilies and flowers and weeds drift. It may be to the garden of God. Well, look at those hands. The mixed hand. You have a mixed hand? These are the hands probably to have. The mixed hand is the most difficult of all to describe. In the chapter on square, I gave an illustration of the type of mixed fingers. In that case, however, the mixed fingers have a foundation of the square hand, whereas with the true mixed type, no such foundation can be cited for the student's guidance. The mixed type is so called because the hand cannot possibly be classed as square, spatulate, iconic, philosophic, or psychic. The fingers also belong to different types, often one pointed, one square, one spatulate, one philosophic, etc. The mixed hand is a hand of ideas, of versatility, and generally of changeability of purpose. A man with such a hand is adaptable to both people and circumstances, clever but erotic in the application of his talents. He will be brilliant in conversation, be the subject, science, art, or gossip. He may play some instrument fairly well, may paint a little, and so on, but rarely will he be great. When, however, a strong line of head rulers rules the hand, he will, of his talents, choose the best and add to his brilliancy and versatility of others. Such hands find their greatest scope in work requiring diplomacy and tact. They are so versatile that they have no difficulty in getting on with the different dispositions with which they come into contact. Their most striking particularly is the adaptability to circumstances they never feel, the ups and downs of fortune like others. Almost all classes of work are easy to them. They are generally inventive, particularly if they can thereby relieve themselves of labor. They are restless and do not remain long in any one town or place. They are fond of new ideas. One moment they determine to write a drama, and the next perhaps they invent the gas stove or go into politics. But as they are always changing and unstable as water, they rarely succeed. It must be remembered that when the palm belongs to certain types, these characteristics are much modified, as for instance, mixed fingers on the square, the spatulate, and the philosophic or the conic will often succeed where the pure development of the type would fail. When the entire hand is mixed, it is then that, though versatility of the talents and purposes, the subject is inclined to become the jack of all trades, to which class of unfortunates the individual possessing this type of hand is so commonly regarded in works of palmistry. Well, there you go. Are you a jack of all trades? Oh my, we're on to the thumb. We're on to the thumb. Look at that. The club thumb. You have a club thumb? A supple jointed thumb. Firm jointed thumb. The thumbs. Ta-da! Yes. Wow, do you have a big thumb? A little thumb? Oh my gosh, we're going to learn about the thumb. Look at, I got thumbs, said the wizard. And with my magic wand, I cast a spell. Woo. Okay. Well, so much for that. Let's get back onto the thumb while we burn up time here, because this is quite interesting. And I want to learn about my thumb. How does this thumb tell me who I am? How many thumbs can there be? What will we do without these thumbs? I don't know. Let's find out. The thumb is, in every sense, so important that it calls for special attention, not only in the domain of chirogomany, but also in its relation to chiromancy. The truth of palmistry could rest upon the solid foundation given by the study of the thumb alone. It is in relation to the most important characteristics of the subject. In every age, the thumb has played a conspicuous part not only in the hand, but also in the world itself. It is also a well known fact that among many of the tribes of the Oriental nations, if the prisoner, when brought before his captors, cover his thumb by his fingers, he is in this dumb but eloquent fashion giving up his will and independence and begging for mercy. We will find in the war annals of the children of Israel instances of their cutting off the thumbs of their enemies. Gypsies, in their judgment of character, make the thumb the great foundation for their remarks. Being interested in gypsies in my early life, I known this for a fact, for I have seen and watched them from the position, angle, and general appearance of the thumb. They make calculations accordingly. In India, they have a variety of systems by which they read the hand, but here, again, they make the thumb the center of the foundation, no matter what the system they work out. The Chinese also believe in palmistry, and they too base their remarks on the position of the thumb itself. Again, it is an interesting fact to notice that even the Christianity, the thumb has played an important role. The thumb representing God, the first finger Christ, and the indicator of the will of God, and the only finger on the hand that has, by virtue of its position, the power to point or to stand upright, independent of the rest. The second representing the Holy Ghost as the attendant to the first. In the Greek church, the bishop alone gives the blessing by the thumb and first and second fingers, representing the Trinity. The ordinary priest has to use the whole hand. And again, in the old ritual of English church, we find that the baptism, the cross, must be made by the thumb. I do not wish to tire my readers by going into lengthy dissection upon the medical points which could be given by the hundreds in proof of the importance of this member, but the most significant of all is that which relates to what is known in medical works as the thumb center of the brain. It is well known fact amongst the specialists of nerve diseases that by examination of the thumb they can tell if the patient is affected or is likely to be affected by paralysis or not, as the thumb will indicate such a likelihood. A long time before there has appeared the slightest trace of such a disease in any part of the system. If it indicates such an affliction, the operation is at once performed on the thumb center of the brain. And if the operation is a success or is successful, which is again shown by the thumb, they have baffled the disease, and the patient is saved. So they can save you through your thumb. And yet, in fact of this, which is well-known fact, that there are still people who do not believe in the study of the hand. Within the last few years, Dr. Francis Galton has demonstrated in London the marvelous accuracy by which criminals can be traced by their study of their correlations of the skin of the thumb. The English government threw well of the idea and even proposed to put it into practice, and yet that very government arrested and prosecuted palmists during the same year in almost every part of the country. Justice is indeed blind. Another very interesting point is the old idea of midwives, an idea by the way that can easily be seen to contain a good deal of truth. They believe that if the child, some days after birth, was inclined to keep the thumb inside the fingers, it foreshadows great physical delicacy. But if 7 7 days after birth the thumb was still covered, then there was good reason to suspect that the child would be delicate mentally. If one will visit the asylums of the country, he cannot fail to notice that all congenital idiots have very weak, poor thumbs. In fact, some are so weak as not to be properly developed, even in shape. All weak minded individuals have weak thumbs, and the man or woman who will stand talking with the fingers covering and concealing the thumb has little self confidence or reliance. It is an interesting thing to watch the hands of people when dying. One will see that as death approaches and as the reason goes, the thumb loses all power and drops in on the hand, but that if the reason has only faded temporarily, the thumb still retains its power, and there is every hope of life. It is D. Apatanthy who has said the thumb individualizes the man. This is remarkably true, particularly when one follows out Sir Charles Bell's discovery that in the hand of the chimpanzee, which is the nearest approach to the human, though well formed in every way, yet the thumb, if measured, does not reach the base of the first finger. The deduction to be made is, therefore, that the higher and better proportioned the thumb, the more the intelligent faculties rule, and the vice versa. This point the student will prove by the most casual observation. The man with the short, clumsy, thick-set thumb is coarse and brutish in his ideas and animal in his instincts, while the man or woman with the long, well-shaped thumb is intellectual and refined, and in the attainment, a desire or carrying out of an object. Such a person will use the strength of intellectual will as opposed to that of brute force, which will be applied by the man with the thick, short formation. The thumb, therefore, should be long and firm upon the hand. It should not stand at right angles to the palm, nor should it lie too close to the side. It should have a slope towards the fingers, and yet not lie down on them. When it stands off to the hand at right angles to it, the nature will fly to extremes for sheer independence of spirit. It will be impossible to manage or control such natures. They will brook no opposition, and they will be inclined to be aggressive in their manner and bearing. When the thumb is well formed, but lying down, cramped towards the fingers, it indicates the utter want of independence of spirit. It denotes a nervous, tremendous, or cautious nature. It will be impossible to find out what such a person is thinking about what he intends to do. He cannot be outspoken because his nature is in the reverse. If the thumb, however, is a long one, he will use his intellectual faculties to outwit his opponent. But if it be short and thick, he will cautiously await his opportunity for any deed of violence that he may meditate. When a well-formed thumb, therefore, strikes the happy medium of these two extremities, the subject will have sufficient independence of spirit to give him dignity and force of character. He will also be properly cautious over his own affairs and have strength and will and decision. It therefore stands. The long, well-formed thumb denotes strength of intellectual will. The short, thick thumb, brute force and obstinacy. The small, weak thumb, weakness of will and want of energy. Oh boy. So if you got a big, strong thumb, you're going to be strong. From time to immemorial, the thumb has been divided into three parts, which are significant in all three great powers that rule the world: love, logic, and will. The first, or nail plague, denotes will. The second, flag, iconic. The third, which is the boundary of the mount of Venus, love. When the thumb is unequally developed, as for instance the first flag extremity along will find that the subject depends upon neither logic nor reason, but simply upon will. When the second flange is much longer than the first, the subject, though having all the calmness and exactitude of reason, exactitude of reason, yet has not sufficient will and determination to carry out his ideas. The third flange is long and the thumb is small. The man or woman is a prey to the most passionate or sensual side of nature. One of the most interesting things in the study of the thumb is to notice whether the first joint is supple or stiff. When the first flange is allowed to bend back and form the thumb into an arch. When, on the contrary, the thumb is stiff, the first flange cannot be bent back, even by pressure, and these two opposite particularities bear the greatest possible relation to character. So, yeah. Okay. Oops. So bending your thumb. How far can you bend your thumb? Do you ever think of that? You know, bending your thumb this way. Can you bend it like that? You bend it back. Is your thumb really long? Do you got a big long thumb? Can you bend your thumb in the middle? Like this. Or can you not bend your thumb? Or is it just long and straight and you just got one button to push? So, I wonder about that. So, let's get back to this. Well, the supple thumb is a distinctive particularly of the Latin races. The stiff joint is more properly of the northern. The supple joint, for instance, is very rare among Danes and Norwegians and Germans and English. The Scottish, whereas, is found in large numbers among the Irish, French, Spanish, and Italians, and wherever these races have congregated. I hardly think that the theory of climatic influence bears out this point. I am more inclined to consider that the unconscious influence of the surrounding perennial or otherwise has more to do with the particular or characters that is in shows in the individual are also the characteristics of the nation to which the individual belongs. The supple jointed thumb, for example, the supple jointed thumb bending from the hand is in the indication of the extravagant person, not only in matters of money, but in thought. These are life's natural spendthrifts, the improvident of time and provident with wealth, and they have the adaptability of temperament for both people and circumstances. They are quick at home and whatever society they are thrown. They have the sentimental love of kindred and country, are opposed to practical. They settle down easily into new work and new surroundings, and consequently they quickly make a home in whatever country they are placed. The firm jointed thumb, again, in general way, the exact position of all is found among the people with stiff, firm joint. In this first place, they are more practical. They have a strong will and kind of stubborn determination, which makes them rather stronger in character, and which is a large element in their success. They are more cautious and secretive. They advance by slow steps, and they are, whereas the nature will act by leaps and bounds. Again, they are not erratic like the first mentioned. They stick to one thing and carry out their purpose with a kind of resilientness, stubbornness. They have the practical idea of making the most out of their own home, their own country. They rule with strength. They have a keen sense of justice. They control self as they would control machinery. In war, they are solid, strong, and resilientness. In love, they are undemonstrative, but firm and stanch. In religion, their churches are plain, but solid. In art, they have strength of their own individuality. With that, I think we're going to quit right there. Well, we're going to quit right there. And we'll come back to that next time. Let's see, stop screen. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Go out and check your thumb out. I think I got that. That's my thumb. Yeah, I'm the firm jointed thumb. Yeah, firm joint. Yeah, firm joint, big hand. Yeah, I got the working hand with the firm joint. That's me. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this part 3. We're going to continue on with part 4. This is really getting interesting, learning about your hands. Are you that kind of person? Let me know if I'm right on the money here. So go out, send me an email, let me know, put it in the comments below. Please give me a like if you like it. Give me a thumbs up. Pun intended. Okay, with that, remember, go out and do nice things for other people. Give them a smile, wave at them, say hi to somebody, spread the love and joy. Remember, go out most of all and be the frequency you want to receive. Everyone, peace, everybody. As soon as I can find a little icon here and put the thing. Okay, we'll do it again. Peace, everybody.